I had a speech prepared, but considering that our event seems to be under assault, I will cut to the chase. Ratchet, I do not know where I would be without you. You are my closest friend, my teammate, and you have given up a lot to... I have repaired the Dimensionator, so you can travel through dimensions and find your family.
Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is but a month away, and fortunately, we were invited along to a little behind-the-scenes look at the upcoming PS5 exclusive, where we saw some new gameplay footage, as well as a peek behind the curtain with developers Insomnia Games. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart will feature a whole new story for the world's favorite Lombax and pals, with a much deeper personal connection for our furry friend. Without spoiling anything, Ratchet has the opportunity to meet others of his kind, one of which is the new character Rivet. Rivet, aside from being just a female version of the orange Lombax, comes packed with her own character, charm and quips as well, as we get to experience Rift Apart as both Ratchet and Rivet. Insomnia Games knew their audience well and knew that there would be a mixture of returning fans that have been avidly following Ratchet & Clank's journey for 19 years now, since the days of the PS2, such as myself, as well as a whole new generation of kids who will experience it for the first time. So when it came to building the story and the characters within, they needed to blend these two ideas well, which seems to be achieved quite well, gauging from the impressions that we saw. In the discussion where Insomniac spoke more on the vision of the story, creative director Marcus Smith, lead writer Lauren Mee, and senior animator Lindsay Thompson spoke on how they crafted a narrative that would not only include everything we know and love about Ratchet & Clank, including their trademark humor, heart and ideas on friendship, they also wanted to explore ideas that would resonate with old fans as they grew up with Ratchet & Clank, as well as those who now have children of their own and are experiencing this new narrative alongside their kids. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart doesn't just revitalize the narrative, but the gameplay has been given a modern refresh as well. Rift Apart deals heavily with interdimensional travel through rifts, but not just for the story. Level design has leveraged portal travel with level traversal, where both Ratchet and Rivet can use many portals to shoot across levels, giving access to different areas as well as keeping the combat high-paced. It's a fantastic way to bring a modern spin into a game while remaining within the confines of the story, while also bringing a narrative element into the gameplay itself. Gadgets still play a huge role in Rift Apart, and not only will we see the return of fan favorites such as the hover boots, but also new gadgets come into the fray such as the Phantom Dash. This nifty piece of tech allows Ratchet and Rivet to not only traverse areas differently, but also brings a whole new element to combat, keeping everything as fast as possible without feeling monotonous. The hover boots have also been given some new features thanks to the DualSense controller, as the adaptive triggers will allow you to change the speed of the hover boots for both traversal and combat, bringing a new element to an already known gadget. Rifts have also been used to add pocket dimensions, small off-the-path portals where players can test out new gadgets, equipment or mechanics, and rewards players with new armor pieces. These pieces are not only functional, but they're also customizable, which allows us, the players, the freedom to dress our humorful compatriots the way we want to. Functionally though, they will test players in new mechanics or pieces of equipment that you have picked up, and who doesn't want to visit pocket dimensions? It's like the only cool thing about dimensional space travel. Now what good would all that customization do if we can't take a selfie? Thankfully, Insomniac has answered that already with the inclusion of a photo mode, allowing you to take action-packed, suspenseful photos of your adventures throughout your time with Ratchet and friends. If you are one of those asking, why couldn't we fly not one, but two species of creatures and have them come alive through our controllers? Well, do I have some good news for you? While Insomniac Games did not give too much info on this just yet, we do at least know that we can indeed ride creatures, and really, what more could we ask for? Afterwards, we were treated to a discussion on how Insomniac has utilized the powerful tech behind the PS5 and what that means for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Insomniac has once again managed to blend modern and traditional values for rendering, as Rift Apart will still use the field of vision rendering technique, whereby the only actual items that is rendered at a given time is what you see on screen. But thanks to the incredibly fast loading times, everything can still be rendered in real time, including portal traversals. The reason for this is that it affords larger and denser areas to be rendered at any given time, while keeping systems from being too taxing on the console. Keeping with loading times, Insomniac Games said that the loading times for portal traversal, because it is rendered in real time, is essentially 1 second to load from one dimension to the next. What this all means is that we can expect hyper-fast texture loading and level loading, which means more and enhanced playtime. The discussions finished with some key gameplay design items, including accessibility, progression, as well as weapon rotation. Accessibility is rather important to Insomniac, as they spoke about how they will introduce similar systems that we saw in Miles Morales, like colorblind adjustments. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was intended to be a fast-paced cinematic production, but they've also thought of those who might not have the dexterity to keep up with all the action on screen, which they address with a slow motion mechanic, especially for portal traversal in platforming sections. Also, there will be varying difficulty settings that cater for kids or adults who are simply looking for a good, fun action-adventure game, all the way to long-standing fans who want a challenge in the world of Rift Apart. Since there are now two playable characters, Ratchet and Rivet, progression between them was questioned, particularly how it will be shared. Insomniac stated that they did look at separating the progression between the two Lombaxes, but they opted against it and went for shared progression instead to maintain that smooth flow rather than disrupt it. This idea also extends to weapon rotation, as Ratchet & Clank has always placed a large emphasis on rotating between a large range of weapons rather than simply being stuck on one. Insomniac stated that this was a consideration of theirs, and they opted to purposefully make sure ammo drops would keep players involved in rotating their arsenal. We moved on to the next series of discussions, which focused on how the team set about actually building the world of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and what elements remained to keep the core of Ratchet & Clank intact. The world needed to reflect the narrative of dimensional disruption, and that each dimension essentially offered an opposite world to another in the game, but the challenge came in how they retained their Ratchet & Clank charm. An example was shown between the sprawling bright city that we start off in, compared to the mechanical, dull cyber world of Redacted. Weapon designs were kept quirky as well in order to keep with the Ratchet & Clank aesthetic, but they've also been given a PS5 coat of paint, adding alternate firing modes with the DualSense controller. An example is a shotgun type weapon, which offers a single barrel shot with one mode and a double barrel shot with the other. There were some examples of other quirky weapon designs, but I don't want to spoil too much. When discussing the overall idea of building the world of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Insomniac mentioned that they wanted this to be a film-quality experience in both the cinematics and gameplay, which was brought to life by animations that used face rec technology, which is facial animation tracking, movie-like audio design, as well as a realistic environmental interaction. This includes water rippling, mud moving when you walk through it, as well as your fur moving in the wind, and so on. Ray tracing was also introduced, particularly on Clank, where his metal actually reflects his surroundings, giving him a more organic feel in the world. Pun, I know. It is also featured heavily in the environments overall, from creating much more intense and realistic lighting effects to reflections on metal surfaces as well. Ending the discussion, Insomniac stated, "This is the most realistic sheeple you will ever see in a video game," and I think that statement accurately reflects Rift Apart in a nutshell. Interdimensional score of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Finally, we were treated to a discussion with Marcus Smith, the creative director of Insomnia Games, and Mark Mothersbaugh, the game's composer. Marcus led the story about the direction he wanted the score to follow, stating that he wanted it to sound like a Marvel movie, and that a reference point was the work of Mark Mothersbaugh on Thor Ragnarok. He continued to regale the story of how he sent the script to Mark to look over, and thankfully for us, he was interested and obliged. After the initial meeting, Marcus spoke about how he wanted the score to be whimsical, something that we would all hum along to while not even playing the game, and that gaming layers music to evolve our overall experience. Excitingly, Mark mentioned that while working on Thor Ragnarok, there were a number of compositions that he wanted to add into the film, but it just never made the final cut. So he repurposed them and added them into Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which means that pieces of compositions from Thor Ragnarok will grace our ears as we take charge of our favorite Lombax. I mean, can anyone say GOTY 2021? While this was a hands-off demo, we can't say for certain how the game feels to actually play, but we can say quite definitively that Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is looking like PlayStation's first true outing as a PS5 exclusive that truly brings next generation to life. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart launches on the 11th of June 2021 exclusively for the PS5. If you guys are looking to secure yourself a copy of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, make sure to check out the link below. Also, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button, and while you're there, why not consider subscribing and hit the little bell icon to be notified of when I upload next. Also, if you could share this video, that would be greatly appreciated, as sharing really brings the great word of my channel to everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.